Gizmo, the raccoon, rockets through the sky on a bright purple vacuum cleaner, trailing a rainbow of garbage and screaming cats. "I've made a terrible mistake," he yells as he crashes through a billboard advertising Bob's boring brooms. They do and fly. The billboard now reads Bob's boring brooms. They fly now. This is Gizmo, a self-proclaimed inventor extraordinaire who once tried to improve a toaster by adding rocket boosters. The kitchen is still being rebuilt. He lives in a converted shopping cart behind the electronics store, surrounded by broken gadgets, instruction manuals he's never read, and a collection of almost working inventions. His life motto is, "If it's not sparking, it's not working." His best friend is Penny, a pragmatic pigeon who speaks in technical jargon she learned from eavesdropping on engineering students. She wears tiny safety goggles and carries a toolbox made from a matchbox. The two met when Gizmo's experimental smart bird bath gained sentience and started giving weather reports. Penny was the only one who could translate its demands for premium bird seed. And then there's Chaos, a hyperactive ferret who believes every problem can be solved with more explosions. He wears a tiny hard hat covered in warning stickers and speaks only in construction terms mixed with excitement. Nobody knows where he came from, but he appeared during Gizmo's Great Blender incident and never left. "According to my calculations," Gizmo announces, holding up a blueprint covered in crayon scribbles, "if we modify Mrs. Henderson's vacuum cleaner with these bottle rockets, we can create the world's first flying cleaning device." Penny adjusts her goggles. The aerodynamic properties of a vacuum are fundamentally flawed for sustained flight. Chaos bounces excitedly. "Structural modifications. Boom boom approved. But think of the possibilities." Gizmo continues. "No more unreachable dust bunnies. Sky-high cleaning efficiency will revolutionize janitorial services." Penny pulls out a tiny calculator. The probability of catastrophic failure is approximately 99.7%. "So, you're saying there's a chance?" Gizmo grins. Chaos starts welding bottle rockets to the vacuum. Safety third, excitement first, logic second. They sneak into Mrs. Henderson's garage, where her prized purple vacuum sits next to a collection of garden gnomes that seem to be watching them. Phase 1. Acquire the vacuum, Gizmo whispers. Stealth mode activated. He immediately trips over the power cord, sending the vacuum rolling into a pile of paint cans. Crash, clang, splat. They're now covered in neon green paint. Stealth mode deactivated. Penny deadpans. Chaos emerges from the paint puddle. Camouflage upgrade complete. Battlefield ready. Just then, Mrs. Henderson's cat, Whiskers McGillicuddy, appears wearing a tiny security badge. "Halt! You're under citizen's arrest for attempted vacuum theft," he declares in a surprisingly deep voice. "You can talk." Gizmo gasps. "I've been taking night classes," Whiskers McGillicuddy replies proudly. Criminal justice and yarn theory. Penny checks her watch. "We need to negotiate. Nitrogen monoxide negotiations." Chaos shouts, accidentally triggering his bottle rocket contraption. He shoots across the garage like a green comet, knocking over the garden gnomes, which turn out to be motion activated and start singing show tunes. In the chaos, Gizmo manages to attach his rocket boosters to the vacuum. "Just a few minor adjustments," he mutters, connecting wires with bubblegum and prayer. Penny frantically flips through her technical manual. The thrust-to-weight ratio is completely fire in the hole. Chaos interrupts, somehow having multiplied into 3 ferrets, or maybe it's just the paint fumes. The vacuum starts vibrating ominously. Whiskers McGillicuddy backs away slowly. "I didn't sign up for this. I just wanted to protect household appliances." The garden gnomes reach a crescendo in their rendition of "My Way." Gizmo grabs the vacuum handle. "For science," he declares, hitting the power button. The vacuum explodes to life, shooting straight up through the garage roof. Gizmo dangles from the handle as they rocket through the neighborhood, sucking up everything in their path. Laundry from clotheslines, a flock of confused geese, someone's to pay, and a food truck's entire inventory of hot dogs. Structural integrity compromised, Chaos shouts from below, somehow keeping pace by bouncing off trampolines that weren't there a second ago. Penny flies alongside them, taking notes. Altitude, too high. Speed, too fast. Situation, too chaotic. Is there any other way to live? Chaos responds, now juggling the stolen hot dogs. They zoom past the town square, where Mayor Bumblebee, an actual bee wearing a tiny top hat, is giving a speech about maintaining order in our community. The vacuum sucks up his podium, his notes, and his hat. Vandalism, he buzzes angrily. Also, has anyone seen my honey? Suddenly, they're pursued by Mrs. Henderson herself, riding a souped-up leaf blower like a jetpack. Return my vacuum, you flying bandits, she shouts, firing tennis balls from a modified serving machine. Gizmo tries to steer, but only succeeds in starting a spiral dive toward the duck pond. Evasive maneuvers, Chaos calls out, somehow now riding a garden gnome that sprouted wings. Penny flies close to Gizmo. Pull the emergency brake. What emergency brake? The one I told you to install. I thought that was optional. They dodge a barrage of tennis balls, loop around the church steeple startling the bell choir, and accidentally suck up a parade of marching band students. The vacuum is now playing a very confused version of the Star-Spangled Banner while shooting confetti and hot dogs. Landing procedures initiated, Chaos announces as they hurtle toward the annual Boring People convention in the park. Gizmo closes his eyes. If we survive this, I'm taking up pottery. The vacuum crashes into the fountain, creating a massive geyser that launches rubber ducks, convention goers, and a very surprised fountain mermaid statue into the air. Water rains down as Gizmo emerges from the fountain, seaweed in his hair, still clutching the vacuum handle. The vacuum itself is now somehow perfectly clean and running quietly. Penny lands nearby, consulting her damage report. Total destruction, minimal. Chaos coefficient, maximum. Success rate, surprisingly high. Chaos pops up from the fountain, now wearing a traffic cone as a hat. Mission accomplished, vacuum enhanced, neighborhood irrigated. Mrs. Henderson lands gracefully with her leaf blower. Well, she says, looking at her now pristine vacuum, I guess it is cleaner than before. Mayor Bumblebee buzzes over, having retrieved his hat from a tree. As mayor of this fine town, I declare this the most excitement we've had since the great sprinkler malfunction of '89. The convention goers, now soaking wet and covered in fountain foam, are actually smiling. This is the least boring thing that's ever happened to us. One cheers. Whiskers McGillicuddy approaches, shaking water from his fur. I'm promoting myself to Chief of Aerial Security, he announces. Someone needs to keep an eye on you three. Gizmo grins, wringing out his tail. So, same time next week. Penny checks her schedule. I've penciled an inevitable catastrophe for Tuesday. Structural improvements. Chaos adds, somehow now dry and wearing a different hard hat. Mrs. Henderson hands Gizmo a business card. Henderson's Flying Vacuum Services. Call for estimate. She winks. If you're going to use my vacuum for aerial stunts, might as well make it official. The garden gnomes, now scattered around the fountain, begin harmonizing a victory song. As they walk away, Gizmo suddenly stops. Wait, did anyone else notice that the vacuum was already modified when we found it? Penny flips through her notes. According to my observations, Mrs. Henderson's garage contains 17 other flying appliances. Chaos nods sagely. Professional competition. Market research. They turn to look back at Mrs. Henderson, who's now hovering 20 feet above the fountain on what appears to be a flying dishwasher, taking aerial photos of the cleanup crew. She waves cheerfully. See you next Tuesday, she calls out. And bring your own rockets. The end. Until the next invention goes airborne.